Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, or good day wherever you are in the world, and welcome to the next episode of No Dice, No Glory. Sponsored by our jobs that actually pay us money, we're coming to you not at all live from an abandoned arms factory deep under a mountain in West Virginia. We are proud to proffer to you the finest in wargaming coverage. Without any further ado, let's get this show on the road.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Tales of the Sale, episode 40. We are joined today by two pretty awesome guests, and I'm gonna get to them in a second. But we have the regulars, so I'll let them give a quick shout out. So, Garrett Swader, say hello.
Hello, everybody.
We have Glenn, the gentleman farmer Van Meter.
Hey, folks, how's it going?
And we are joined by co-founder of Blood and Pigment, Joe Forrester. Say hello, Joe.
Hello. Thanks for having me on.
And the man himself, the head honcho / creative power and genius behind the Blood and Plunder universe, with many help from many other people, is Mike Tunez. Say hello, Mike.
Hello, Mike. I don't know about all that, but it's good to be here. Thanks for having me, guys.
So we're going to get updates on a lot of different things. We're going to try to put our focus as much as possible on the cool people that were nice enough to join us this evening. But we'll kind of go around the horn and give a quick update on what we've been up to since the last record. I will say that any gap in releasing of episodes recently has been entirely my problem. I've had plenty of awesome things going on at my house. I've learned a lot about asbestos, its uses, and what it should not be used for. I've learned how difficult it is not to have heat in a house, and I have sympathy for those who've had to deal with that. I will say that what I've been doing over the past week and a half actually would make Benderson Little and Mike Tunez proud, which is I will be doing for the first time in my Military History 1 class basically a Blood and Plunder unit where we're going to be playing your game for like a week because it's December. I don't feel like doing a ton of new material, and I plan on using Benderson's little book, which is something that I've already forced a lot of kids to read because I put it on my AP reading list. So we're doing a full unit on pirates, and I'm using a lot of your material because the history is phenomenally well written, which is something I can also give a kudos to Joe for because, he helped to do the research on all the different native tribes. We're going to be covering them as well. So I hope you guys are excited by the fact that the stuff that you wrote for a game is going to be used to educate kids in high school, which probably wasn't your intent when you wrote it, but it's still pretty cool that I get to use that for that. So
that was exactly my intent. That was exactly my intent.
This is the whole purpose.
That was it. Yep.
I thought you were going to say you're doing a unit where you're going to figure out where the local gold hoard stash is and try to raid it.
We're not too close to Oak Island, so I don't know what I would be able to find. And if you read Benderson Little's book, you would know that pirates don't really bury treasure. It's
Correct.
kind of like it's like a
no, but there's, I'm sure, local banks and things.
Yes, I'm going to send my high school students to go burgle the local bank. We got enough problems. It's not happening. I'm also, with the help of a couple of students of mine, running some D&D sessions at the local library. I'm teaching some kids how to run RPG sessions, design characters, and things like that. So it's hopefully a more self-sufficient thing. And last, I've been chatting with Miguel Vega, and I will be bothering Eric Goebel, two players that are far better Blood and Plunder than myself, about possible lists that I can bring with me to Adepticon, which I will be going to in March. Glenn, you've also had a busy time, so tell us what you have been up to since the last record.
Oh boy. Well, my wife was convinced that the baby, because we're expecting our fourth, was going to arrive Thanksgiving weekend. That has not happened, so she's just been nesting for like the last month and a half, which, if anybody has gone through that, they'll know how busy I've been with that. For Halloween, I managed to run the treasure haunt scenario, which, by the way, Mike, that is impossible to find now. You should republish it.
What treasure hunt scenario?
What do you mean, what treasure haunt? You used to have it on the website.
I don't know what you mean. I don't know what you're referring to.
I can point you to a good blog that hosts it now, so you can find it there. But
Perfect. Yep. You can put it on Blood and Pigment.
Oh, good. Joe put it up. How responsible in the digital age. So I ran that rather successfully at my club. It was so successful I ended up having to run 2 tables of it. But everybody had a lot of fun. And other than that, I've been attempting to clean my basement. I've been spending a lot of time recently playing Sea of Thieves with my buddies online, so it's fun to run around and be a pirate on the computer. But now that I have guests for the next month, since my parents are in town to help with the baby that will be appearing any day now, I'm forced to spend my time in my hobby room cleaning instead of messing around on the internet.
There are worse fates you could be suffering from.
Yeah. Well, if anybody doesn't hear from me for a long while, just come try and find me. I probably had a stack of miniatures collapse and I'm buried.
I feel like the cat that you have in that basement might help you survive. Like he could bring you things while you're trapped until somebody finds you. You know?
Yeah, she enjoys interacting with the children, so she'd probably just go get their attention.
And Garrett, you've been planning for Adepticon. What have you been up to project-wise? What have you been up to hobby-wise?
Yeah, I've been helping Joe plan for the Adepticon stuff. I've actually been running a lot of demo days at a store that's near where I work. Getting a good group there going. I think our record for players at a time has gotten up to 5. I'm actually going to play test one of the scenarios that we've written for Adepticon this coming weekend, and hopefully our record will go up to 6 because that's a 6-player scenario. But yeah, I've got 6 players signed up, so we'll see if they all show up. But it should be fun. Yeah, I've been working on painting stuff for that and doing terrain for that. So, and that's going to double. I'm going to bring all that stuff to Chicago with me. So.
Which brings us to Mr. Forrester. And if the show notes are any indication, you have been really busy this fall. So just walk us through what you've been up to with the blog, with the hobby, with life in general.
I've been busy. School started back up, and I'm teaching, which makes my life harder. But it's good. My local group has been growing too. I got about 6-7 people in and out, so it's been fun to teach some new people. But it's annoying not being able to play with people, know what they're doing, and play test scenarios. Noobs. It's hard sometimes. It's been really good to have new folks and do some big group games, play test some of the bigger scenarios. So it's been fun to see.
This is off topic, but are you teaching a bunch of different subjects or are you teaching a bunch of social studies?
Oh, it's just music and choir, so junior high and high school.
Oh, okay. I tend to share materials with people, so if you ever wanted any of the stuff that I make, you would be welcome to it.
That'd be awesome if I was doing that. But yeah,
I can't help you with music. I can sing, but I can't read sheet music. So,
do you teach sea shanties?
I don't.
No, I'm talking to Joe. Why would I be asking?
Oh, Joe, yeah, Joe. Well, I don't know. Maybe I know a sea
A
shanty.
music teacher.
Yeah, you're right. But go on, Joe.
something that's similar to a sea shanty, but never explicit sea shanty.
I'm sure you can fit it in somewhere.
Yeah, probably. Busy with stuff in the blog. Had fun developing a Predator, a little packet for Blood and Plunder based on the Prey movie. It was fun to play test that and paint some miniatures and take some pictures and stuff. So check that out if you haven't already. You can get a Predator miniature and have 100-point miniature against a whole force of pirates and see they can take it down. Pretty fun. Other stuff on the blog. I've been trying to assemble galleries of like a French or a gallery of commanders. So if somebody wants inspiration for painting their commander, they can go to this site and there's 500 pictures in this gallery and you can filter it by French or English or legendary or whatever you want, and find a lot of them from our painting contest last spring, and then a lot of the miniatures that we've used for pictures for our own miniatures for the blog. So working on that, I have a couple of them up so far and getting the rest together. So that's a resource I hope people can use. Speaking of painting contests, we're thinking of running that again, probably first few months of 2024, do a painting contest with some prizes and help people get inspired to paint their miniatures and get ready for the Summer of Plunder, which is another big thing we're going to be doing this year. Hopefully closer collaboration with Firelock itself. Got a lot of plans for that. Really, our thrust is to loop game stores into the proceedings a little more, make a organized play kit to promote the Summer of Plunder and help the game stores bring people into their shops. So working on that. Planning Summer of Plunder, getting helpers lined up and trying to test rules for the campaign. That's been a lot of work and fun. It's tricky. Making the map work and making it balanced and making it unabusable is a lot of work. Getting somewhere on that. Adepticon, been planning for that too. I got it. If you're interested in the events, we have tentative events that are happening at Adepticon up on Blood and Pigment. There's a tab in the menu, just it's Adepticon. It has all the different events, learn to plays, big multiplayer games, 6-player games, historical scenarios, and tournaments. So lots to plan for there. I did make a packet, Glenn, just in case you were wondering, for the tournament. It's already published. You can see all the rules. It's very nice.
That's good for you.
There's history behind that if you aren't. I've been working on some development for Mike too for new Blood and Plunder product, but I'll wait for Mike's update to talk about that stuff.
We will not force you to reveal any.
Oh, I want to reveal
deep dark secrets. No, we're just going to make
There
Mike
will-
do that, and then
there will be
as soon
much
as we
revealing.
release it-
Much revealing will happen. Yes.
Which brings us to you, Mike.
Hopefully not like the
because
revealing happens at the New York Public Schools.
That's no, they don't. They don't. There's we revealed many secrets before we began the record. It's being a teacher in this day and age is a headache. I love my job.
An experience.
I love my students.
It's an experience.
It's an experience is the neutral way of describing it. I had a group of kids running down the hallway in the middle of class, and when I asked them where they were going, they all stopped. One of them turned around and just said, "No," and then they kept going.
Wow.
Like
And
toddler behavior.
I did, yeah, essentially. That's where we're at. That's where we're at some days, but you got good days and bad days.
Nice.
So Mike, tell us what you have been up to down in Miami. What's going on with Firelock? Let's start out by just asking, like, how do you think your year went? What are you most happy with?
Well, I'm happy this year is winding down. So this has been an eventful year, to say the least. I mean, the last few years, but this year, like it was the culmination of all the eventfulness. So, but I'm fairly happy with where things have landed at this point. So the vast majority of my time has just been spent in just developing new manufacturing procedures. We've kind of realized the Siocast stuff is great, and I really, really like the material, but it has just proven to be it's a lot of learning, and it's going much slower than I hoped. But we found a new solution, which basically is we bought this high-end printer to make really crisp, nice masters for our Siocast, right? To kind of go along with it, which was part of the whole plan. But really, what I kind of realized is that this printer is capable of really just kind of handling the manufacturing on its own. As I kept like that was the one constant as we kept trying to develop into the Siocast. And the Cellcast is still great, and we're going to use that for a lot of stuff still going forward. But now we've got some flexibility to grow and to do more with it. While we use this, and really this material though that we're doing with the printing is just so good. It's been excellent, and you guys all have samples. I said everyone here should have samples.
Yes,
I'm pretty sure.
I
so
feel
you've
like
seen
Joe's
it.
is already painted at this point.
You've seen, for sure, he painted it all.
Yeah, Joe painted it already.
You guys have seen the quality, and it's just like it's superb. It's super. I'm super happy with it. The models are very resilient. One of the few things I've done aside from working on this project is I went camping for a week straight in the Everglades for Thanksgiving, and it was record heat, and we had the minis had already been on my dashboard for a month. I'm just testing their resilience to the Florida sun, as that's always an important test for us here. If it can survive Florida direct sun on the dashboard in a hot car, then it's pretty much indestructible. So they passed that test with flying colors. I had a couple models with extra potentially bendable bits that could get warped and stuff, like lanceros and guys holding out long muskets and things like that. I think I had a Dutch militiaman and a few other things, but all passed with flying colors. They're still on my dashboard right now. They're just there, and I'm just seeing how long it takes until they finally cave. But so far they're holding up great. Yeah, so they're doing really well. The detail is just phenomenal, as you guys have seen. I mean, it's like it's the same original sculpts that you're seeing that all your metal miniatures have, but man, the detail is just like on a whole other level.
I honestly think that the detail is very crisp. It's better than the metals, to be honest.
It's better than the metals. If
you're a person who prefers metals over plastics because of the detail factor, you're gonna want to take a look at these just because they don't have that heft. I do suggest that you do the other extreme of the spectrum, since cold tends to make things very brittle. You should Tom, you should use yours, like just leave them outside on like top of the wood pile or something like that.
Test it. Yeah, I'll test it for sure.
In the sub-zero New England weather.
Yeah, I feel like Mike's gonna go outside like most Floridians. It's like 55, and he's got like his Columbia parka on, and he's like, it's so cold. I've never been so cold in my life, and up here it's like 4.
It's 70 degrees right now. It's kind of chilly. I should have maybe put some pants on. Maybe some shoes would have been a good idea instead of the sandals, but it's all right.
Yeah, my parents are up here visiting, and they're complaining that it's 30. They live a couple hours north of Mike in Florida also, but
yeah, I would have been complaining too. They're right to complain.
We might have snow tomorrow just for you.
Ooh. I love snow when I watch it on TV in Florida. So, but anyway, I have barely done really any gaming, unfortunately. There's been, I was playing a lot of Port Royal. I keep calling it Frontiers. Port Royal. But that I kind of had to just stall that because it's really far long. But I had to focus on getting these minis done. So, because I really wanted these minis come out at a better price point that is going to make, so these are going to be at $18 for a blister and $99 for an army box, which is just a much better price than where the metals are at now. And that was just killing me. I hate that we have to do that. So I feel much better about that price in this day and age than where the metals are at.
I still distinctly remember that there was a convention we were at, and Glenn showed up like a weirdo with a bag that had all the metal cast off pieces that like the sprues, right? The metal sprues. And he just saved them all in a bag. And I think he had like maybe 5 pounds of metal, and you just traded him a boat for it because it made sense because the metal was so expensive. You're like, no, I can use all this.
Yes, absolutely. And I did.
From playing other game systems where minis come on like metal sprues, I just had always put those all to the side because I either use them as weights and other things or what have you. But Mike was complaining. This is during the 2020 like COVID metal shortages and things like that. Mike was complaining that metal had gotten so expensive, and I was just like, I have several pounds of metal here. Do you want it?
Would you like a bag of metal, Mike? And he's like, why, yes, I would. I would love a bag of metal. That sounds great.
Absolutely, I would.
So, Mike, you mentioned the year in review, but what do you have for the year coming up? Like, what are your plans, your hopes, your dreams? What's going to go on once the clock strikes midnight on January 1st?
So we've got an ambitious plan. We've always got an ambitious plan, but we've got a really ambitious plan this year for stuff. There's new Blood and Plunder releases. Stuff. So Joseph and Liam Taylor have been working on a very excellent expansion that kind of dovetails right between No Peace and Raise the Black, focusing on the triangle trade and the piracy surrounding that. And that's going to bring in a lot of exciting, cool stuff. It's going to bring in some factions from outside of the Americas. So I'm not gonna spoil anything. I'll let Joe spoil it since he's the one who's been working on it. And but yeah, that's a big thing for Blood and Plunder. We got a new ship. The infamous Barco Luengo is finally nearing completion. That's been in production for at least 10 years now. I'm supposed to be handed the final model Thursday, so hopefully that happens. And then there's just some testing and bits I got to go in. So that's probably going to be released early January. So that's going to be the thing to bring in the new year. And our new resin models are going to start rolling out this week. So this Friday we're making an announcement. I assume this podcast will be the announcement will already have been made when this podcast comes out, probably. Unless you guys are super fast on it.
I'm teaching Garrett how to edit it, so it'll be released this month, but it's not going to be like tomorrow.
I've never done it before. I could be super fast.
You could be. You might be. Yeah.
Yeah, could be a natural.
Might be very fast.
It's a challenge now.
Yeah. If you can get it out by Thursday, you'll beat me to the announcement. So there you go. So, but yeah, that's the two big things that are coming out very soon. So you got the Barco Luengo, you got that, and then on the sometime probably in the summer, you will see the next expansion for Blood and Plunder come out. But there'll be some other stuff in between. There's some other stuff Joe's been cooking up, because Joe's gonna have written more content than anyone for Blood and Plunder at this point. But he's got some cool stuff to wait in between, so that'll be out. And then of course we've got a bunch of other projects. So Port Royal is getting bounced back a little bit, just because we're focused on this whole resin model thing, and we're able to do it and execute on it well. So and I want to just be able to focus on it. If any issues pop up, maybe that I haven't noticed or whatever, I just want to be able to handle it. So handle it quickly and efficiently. So that's probably going to get pushed back to second quarter of next year, as it's very close to completion. There's not really a lot of models that are going to be unique to it or anything. It's a game designed to use your Blood and Plunder minis to just play a different style of game. Or if you're just want to dabble in some piratey games at a smaller kind of micro skirmish level, then this is the game for you. So if Blood and Plunder is maybe a little daunting for you, this could be right up your alley. So, but yeah, that'll be out. And then we've got a few other projects. We're doing a Napoleonics game next year. The RPG is finally going to be released, so that's good. We're actually going through it. We're going to be playing it this month. This month we're going to rock a playtest for it, and I'm looking forward to that. To give it the final approval. There's a bunch of other stuff, but I think that's enough for the moment, so I don't sit here and talk the whole time.
So like it could be a record-breaking year for releases if everything goes according to plan.
Yeah, well, I didn't even talk about half the stuff, but I'm focusing on more Blood and Plunder related things as much as I can. So
Now, Joe, I imagine that we're going to have you on to talk about the stuff you're working on in more detail some of the time when it gets closer. But what's one thing from the new book that you're working on for Blood and Plunder that you're really excited about, just as kind of a preview or a teaser before people get like a full article on your blog or get a more in-depth preview later on?
Well, working on two main projects that are uh, well along. One is the Golden Coast kind of expansion that has a bunch of the pirates that were over on the Africa side of things. And one of the things I'm most excited about, and this is largely Liam Taylor's work, is Ned Lowe, the crazy pirate man. He has a special faction, and he is unpredictable and crazy, and that's represented really well in the rules that we have right now. So I'm really excited about that. Also excited about the whole Bartholomew Roberts, Howell Davis crew. Just read a couple biographies of Bartholomew Roberts. He's already in the game, but what an epic career as far as pirates go. He was actually an impressive guy with an impressive crew and got a lot done compared to a lot of these lame brains. But so those are two things. And then the possibility of having some African kingdoms represented in the game. There's a lot going on over in Africa. And a lot of that's interesting and complex, and that is a possibility that could be really fresh.
I think that's the part I'm most excited about because I don't think I've ever seen that portion of the world represented in wargaming in any way whatsoever. So I think that's going to be cool.
Kind of a delicate area to deal with, but I think it's possible and it could be.
I remember, like, I think it was last year, you and Liam were kind of asking me some questions about it because as a social studies teacher, I've like led discussions about the slave trade with students. We've done research into different communities that were there, kingdoms that were there. It's a pretty complex tapestry in terms of like the political landscape and the interactions and how society functioned. And it's like this. It's interesting and it doesn't get a lot of coverage, I would say. So anything that gets some exposure for the region, for the time period, for the people, I think is a great thing. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be awesome. And you guys did such a phenomenal job with the last one that I have a lot of confidence that you guys are going to deal with a difficult subject in a tasteful way. So thanks for tackling it because I think that's awesome.
That's the plan. I feel like a lot of times people are afraid to touch, and there's so much like unique and rich culture there, especially from a warfare perspective in our war game. And it's just not, I think some people do feel it's a little taboo. And obviously, we're not going to be glorifying slavery or anything like that. But these kingdoms, these African kingdoms that are kind of the way it's very similar to like the interactions that are happening with a lot of the Native Americans and things in the New World. But it's also kind of similar because these are more these are not tribal groups. That's the big takeaway, right? These are legitimate kingdoms and empires, even, right? That are that are significant, and they're big players in the region. And they can feed massive armies.
No, there's a reason why European states don't manage to fully imperialize Africa until the late 1800s, and that's because this is not their first rodeo. They've dealt with European kingdoms and empires before. They've played the great game, and so like these are not tribal. These are kingdoms. These are political entities.
And they're kind of they're in a really cool, like from a wargaming perspective, they're in a really cool like in between technological state, right? Where they're not quite medieval, but they're not fully modernized either. So it's just going to add a lot of really interesting and fun gaming options.
No, I'm really fascinated by this. I think I'm looking forward to this about as much or more than really any of the expansions I've seen, because I think its usefulness as a tool can't be overstated. Like it's just difficult to find good resources as a teacher who's going at this material at a high level with students. You find stuff that's really stuff designed for like little kids that deals with stuff in a very basic level. But it's difficult to find stuff that, or you'll find stuff that's like scholarly articles from like an academic at a college level that's at a reading level that's like not accessible for high school kids. And so yeah, I want it in between. This is gonna be cool. It's gonna be awesome.
My book collection is going out of control again.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
Just build another cabin. It'll be fine. I do have to ask Joe, do you have a particular faction that you prefer or that you're most interested in?
I think I know.
I don't know what Mike knows, because I don't. Not yet. We've been trying. Actually, I have two more things I wanted to share that I'm really excited about, if that's okay.
Oh yeah, go for it.
One is the Portuguese are going to come into their own as a full-fledged nation in this expansion, so they get a full treatment with a new set of units. So that should be fun. They get some interesting factions. They've been on the African coast for a long time, and eventually you'll probably get over to Brazil where they're big. So Portuguese should be really fun. But as far as this expansion, which faction? Part of the European factions we're looking at trying to make unique. The like Royal Africa companies, the different trading companies that have outposts and castles. They're trying to represent how poorly adapted they were to the environment. I was just reading a book yesterday saying about 30% of fresh guys soldiers sent off to that theater died within the first year. It's just massive. And Bartholomew Roberts, his crew, like 30 guys, got their death sentence commuted to working for the Royal Africa Company within like 2 years. They're all dead.
There's also a period of time where the British are sending like troops and foreign diplomats and stuff to India and their South Asian possessions, and only 10% of those that they send ever return. Like the rest of them,
It's just savage. Yeah.
it's just usually disease. It's usually disease.
Yeah. So trying to find a way to we're designing a way to make these Europeans just occasionally drop dead during the middle of your game. For
That's
no apparent reasons.
both historically accurate and hilarious. So kudos.
I guess I have to lead into the history nerd a little bit. You said trading outposts and castles. Would this be, and Tom might know the answer to this as well, I'm guessing this is about the time that we start seeing the term factory be used for these outposts?
We've been using that for quite a while.
Yeah, they've been using that since the 1500s when they first started setting up the trading posts there. So yeah, definitely for sure.
Nice. And I'm presuming the Portuguese are getting their own army faction, much like everybody else did in Nice.
Nice.
Is it going to be much distinct from the Tercios? Are those two different formations? I don't know the history for Portugal very well. Most of my Portuguese history is like Napoleonics and on.
Actually, I should give credit where credit is due. We asked Fernando to help us with the Portuguese. He is my understanding is he's a history professor and is deeply steeped in that. So he actually did initial design on the whole Portuguese chapter here and put together units and factions. So we've been working with him and fine tuning from there. But if you don't like it, you can blame him because or if you do like it, he gets the credit.
Wow, I know. Okay, so for anybody who hasn't met Fernando, his models are all beautifully painted, and he's a great player. He's also the only person I've ever seen to bring a galleon to a tournament, which is amazing. Because it was also beautifully done.
And it was a land tournament. That was the impressive part.
The good old land galleon.
There's no
Not
rules
quite.
to say you can't do that. There is no rule.
I mean, technically
It's
true.
legal.
I don't know what you do with it, but you could just
And
park
I've
it.
looked at Glenn's packet up and down, and it doesn't say you can't bring a ship to a land game either.
You're darn right,
Nice.
Joe.
They got lost on the packet ship. What can I say?
They got lost. They got lost in the ship.
Along with Craig.
Oh my
So
gosh.
looking for the Portuguese. One more thing I'm excited about, and this is a different product. A smaller thing. This is a big, not. We have yet to prove that this is going to continue as a viable option, but I think it's really exciting. Is this kind of a smaller model for? And tell me to shut up if I need to, Mike. But you said to spoil
No, you're
everything.
good. Yeah, spoil everything.
Kind of a smaller packet or very small book, or even a booklet, we could call it. Expansion from Blood and Pigment that focuses on a very narrow focus, or very narrow topic. And it just maybe has one or two factions, some new characters, and some scenarios. Maybe 20 to 10 to 30 pages or so.
Well, I was just going to say that if you've been following our stuff for a long time, we once upon a time put out a free PDF supplement that added a few extra factions and units and things before No Peace Beyond the Line, and this is something of that in that vein, except much more focused on something specific instead of just like a few sporadic things here and there. But as far as general amount of content, that's what you should be looking at.
I'm thinking to an idea that the Battlefront guys tried to do once with Flames that they then never did again. Is this supposed to be like a zoomed in focus kind of thing where these two factions or three factions might only work really against each other, or are they supposed to be like general factions anybody can use, but they're really focused on one conflict?
Yes. Well, some of them won't have any factions at all necessarily. Well, it depends on how things go. But this one I'm working on right now, Christopher Mings and the early Buccaneers, so 1660s. Christopher Mings is a admiral, or he is an English Navy, but he also kind of brings together these different forces after the invasion of Jamaica, and he brings these soldiers plus these buccaneers, and does one of the first big buccaneer raids against the Spanish.
Mm-hmm. English buccaneer raids specifically, but yeah.
Yeah, they bring some of the French guys too.
Yeah, but previously they were all French. Now they're English guys.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So this is gonna have like a early version of the English Buccaneers faction. Mike hasn't okayed any of this yet. I'm just spoiling this stuff that.
I've technically okayed it. We just haven't exactly figured out how to deliver it. So it's coming out one form or another.
I love you guys.
A Ming's legendary faction with a unique miniature for him. Quite the career. He's a fun guy. And then what I'm really excited about is after this raid, these other commanders, including Henry Morgan, they did this epic raid all the way down the Spanish Main, hitting city after city, and just at one of the first major, like a whole, it was like 3, 4, 5 months hitting like 5 different cities. They got their boats all stolen. They had to steal boats back. They traveled 200 miles up river to attack city, and they ended up hitting Granada at the end. It's this epic raid. It doesn't get a lot of attention. I guess there's not a lot of great 1665, not a lot of great accounts of it. But I've designed the 6 scenario campaign that pits these English buccaneers against these terrible Spaniards. Another faction that we have designed is a Spanish city garrison, so like the worst possible Spanish that are just not ready for anything.
Is it your typical Spanish garrison where it's 7 milicianos and a rusty cannon?
Yes, with their cannonballs that are rusted together and they don't fit. Yes, yeah, it's so epically bad, so epically bad. But the English, the whole campaign, you start with a force, and every man you lose for the next game. So you have to manage your resources all the way through, and then in between each scenario, there's this interlude, this kind of abstracted event that happens between the scenarios that kind of tells the story, and it can change the outcome of things. And English have to deal with natives and stuff. So started playtesting it. It's been fun so far, although I was surprised how much pain Guy put on me with these terrible Spanish. I lost a lot of English, so I have to rebalance things a little bit.
That is a really cool mechanic. I'm definitely gonna try that scenario.
Works really well for solo play too.
Sounds also really good for club events.
Agreed. Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, it's made to kind of have 2 people. Some of the scenarios are really small. It's all pretty small. It was 125 Englishmen, and they just did this epic campaign. So you start out with about 200 points worth. You have three or four different commanders. You can choose a different commander every turn. These English guys, they just had more leadership than they knew what to do with. So you can choose which commander you want for a different scenario. You have to use a different one every game. You've got some characters that also represent some of their leadership. But yeah, you can play 2 or 3 scenarios in a day and get through the campaign in 2 sessions, or a couple scenarios you could skip if you want to get through it all in one long Saturday or something. But yeah, I'm really excited about it. I really love digging into the history and finding a way to bring it to life and make a fun experience for players, hopefully.
Well, it sounds like we got like a lot of good stuff coming up. So we're definitely going to bother you repeatedly over the course of next year to get you to come on and talk about stuff. And I mentioned this to Joe in the past, but if you're listening to stuff that he's talking about that he winds up publishing on Blood and Pigment, I'm going to make every effort to cross post so that if people listen to this and they're curious about the things that he's talking about, they'll be able to kind of check out his site and get a link right to it. And since he is on here, we have been doing a segment on rules that's kind of a review for people. And the big issue that we've brought up that's perfect to bring up while Joe is here and while Mike is here is artillery, because I am bad at the game, as has been well established, and I like to not be bad at the game. So, Garrett, I'm going to let you kind of take the lead on this and talk about what the rules are, and people can just pop in occasionally with questions, or they can pop in with corrections if we say something that is phenomenally stupid, because we have the writers of the rules here to clarify for us exactly what they meant. So Garrett, take it away.
Oh yeah, I say stupid things all the time, including something stupid I said in the last rule school. I was corrected by Joseph. In a land situation, your command range is measured from the model, not the unit. So correction from the last one. Wanted to get that out of the way. But yeah, artillery assignments. Overview for that. Artillery requires a unit to be assigned to it to reload and fire. To do really anything with it, it has to take an assignment action. One unit may be assigned to multiple different artillery pieces in a structure, but multiple units may not be assigned to a single artillery piece.
So no overlapping, right?
No overlapping. The way I understand that is you could have one unit assigned to cannons and to swivels as long as they're on the same structure.
Quick thing to point out, just
Mhm.
because I know this came up for me when I was a Wii player. The field gun rule, unless it has been revised, which to my knowledge it has not been, but it may have been and I just missed it. The field gun rule that allows your land artillery crews to take a gun on a field carriage only allows you to take one. Is that still true, Mike, Joe?
Yes, that's how I read it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. For now. Could change any moment.
But you can just buy a bunch of guns and put them on the field right next to them, and then just take one dedicated action to grab them all. So it's not a big deal.
Can you?
You can't actually, because you need to have the unit to buy the gun.
Oh yeah, right.
Oh, okay.
We're learning together.
We are learning today.
For another gun, you'd need to buy like a field fortification to put the gun in, right?
Right. Well,
Yeah.
and just to clarify that, because I get a lot of flack for that rule. Field guns in general were kind of put in just for the fun of it, because realistically, a force of 50 guys isn't going to be rolling around with a battery. This is not going to happen, right? It's just not like even them having one gun is just not realistic. It could.
I mean, not with that attitude,
No, definitely not. Especially that.
The Spanish
not with
city
my
garrison
attitude.
defenders did.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they had a fortress to put their guns in. So
They just left their field guns like in front of their church to rust. That seems to be the main thing they did.
right. Yes, correct. So but regardless, that's kind of the thinking. And then if you want to play an army scale game, you could very easily have just multiple small units with guns, and that is the appropriate way to do that. So,
which I will point out is exactly what Eric Goebel did to me when he fired an artillery barrage into my face.
Right. So just to clarify, that's the thinking behind it. So we didn't want to have people with playing 100-point games with their artillery battery on the table. That just didn't seem right. So.
Right.
Yeah, but I'm gonna also point out that they're really not super effective in small games. So if you
they're more effective now, I will say.
Short of needing to demolish a couple of structures, they're not going to be the best use of points.
Since the artillery changes, they're not that bad. They're actually, I've seen them being used pretty good. A light gun with a 3-man crew that's not terribly expensive to field can actually do some pretty serious work. So,
well, you heard it here, folks.
maybe I'm wrong.
Meta shift alert.
Maybe I'm just such a good player that everything I do is so effective, and that's why it works for me.
So, Mike, briefly explain why the artillery update makes them better.
Generally, you're hitting more. You don't want to run around shooting round shot. That's just not terribly effective. But with the canister, with hitting on the, you're just getting more You're just able to hit things more effectively, and they just actually have a purpose. They have a good range, so you can, they could sit back and just give the consistent firing.
Grape shot hasn't changed at all since the very beginning of the game, so that's not changed.
I guess that's true technically. But
solid shot on land, I don't think that it hasn't really
they're
helped
cheaper,
very much.
so that helps.
Cheaper is good, but yeah, it's just I have a 4-shoot. It got washed to me, but
the only thing I can think of is that like 16 inches or so, like it's definitely like you're hitting on a 6 instead of an 8 or something like that. So I can see where that helps.
And they could reload pretty quick with a commander helping.
No, the long range stuff, like when somebody's got a unit like 30 inches away, that's where you can hit them on like a 6 instead of or 7 instead of like an 8.
That too, and then you can put those fatigues early game too, which is helpful, and you're still getting rid of models.
the main thing that the cannon update from the Raise the Black era did was make when you hit something, you do damage rather than, oh, I hit it and it did nothing. And it extended that range out a little bit so it's more consistent at further range. You miss 40% of the time now, even at, or 30% at point blank range. So there's still a lot of cannons that don't do massive damage, but once you do hit something, it's going to put some pain on it, which is what a cannon is supposed to do.
So I still think field gun should be amended to allow for multiple units if you really, really want to do that to yourself. But
you can.
Yeah. Let's get well, no, I mean like multiple cannons in a single unit, but that's a different argument. Anyways, back to our points.
Sorry, Garrett.
No, that's perfectly fine. Okay, moving on. Units can be assigned to artillery before the game starts. Otherwise, they must take an assign action. The assign action is a dedicated action. The abandon action is a standard action. Artillery has a minimum crew number to be reloaded. Light guns are 2 models. Medium guns, 3 models. Heavy guns, 4 models. Swivels, 2 models.
Now, this is the part that always confuses me because when it's on a boat, right, and you're trying to assign one unit, a big bulky unit, to a bunch of different guns to be able to fire a broadside, like let's say that I have 3 medium guns, right, on my sloop, and I assign a group of 12 militia guys to crew those guns. They should have no problem pulling the cord on them and firing, and they should have no problem loading them, correct? Because with 3 guns, I would need 3 crew apiece, and if I have 12 guys, I can even take a few casualties before I can't.
Yeah, minimum would be 9 on that.
You're talking about 3 pairs of mediums, and you're talking about one side, or crewing all 6 and then only
just one side, he means.
Yeah, I want to assign them to one side. I buy them in pairs, but I would want to assign a unit to all the cannons on one side of the ship. Is that allowed?
Right. Yes.
I usually make a bulky unit like that and assign them to all 6 guns on the sloop.
Right.
And then they're only firing and reloading whichever side is needed.
Right. That's the way most people do it. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes more sense than what
Yeah.
I was doing.
Yeah, you can only effectively reload and fire one side,
Okay.
but you're assigned to all of them.
Assigned to all of them, otherwise you waste a whole unit half the game.
For some reason in my head, I was like, oh, well, if I assign them all 6 and I drop below the minimum for reloading all of them, then I just won't be able to reload. But the fact is, it just limits the number of guns I can reload that are assigned to me. That just clicked in my head.
If you were in a situation where you're able to fire both broadsides at 2 different targets, then you at that point have to choose which side you want to start reloading first.
Okay.
Because you only need one model to fire the gun. So you would only need 6 models in the unit if all of your guns were loaded to fire all of them.
Right.
But then you have problems after that because reloading is going to be difficult.
Okay. So, and you actually just kind of mentioned one of the final rules, which is any loaded artillery can be fired by 1 model per artillery piece. And just mention the last part, what you can do while you're assigned.
Well, hold on real quick. I do want to put a caveat in.
Do it.
If you are putting 12 people to man guns, please do not use militia. There are going to be a lot better choices to man those guns. So try to find somebody that has, artillery expert or master or what have you.
Sailors without pistols are the same price. Go with those guys.
Yeah, your militia should be soaking up bullets or firing their muskets, because at sea you're going to be firing your muskets at long range a lot anyway. So they're going to be better pumping shot out over the side or receiving the shot as opposed to the sailors that are manning your guns.
Yeah, but soon, with a future change, that you'll have more options. It'll be less tempting to take sailors with no weapon because there's going to be so many cool new choices that go with the sprues that you got. So,
I like it. More choices is always
I guess
good.
we'll talk about that after assignments.
So actions while you are assigned that you are allowed are shoot, reload, move artillery, which is only for the field carriage thing that we were talking about, rally, and stand and go prone.
Can they?
Yeah.
Can they go prone? Yes.
Can they go prone? Yeah, I thought so. Looking over to the judges.
The Spanish did it often, usually under hails of gunfire.
Yeah, I feel like nobody who's getting shot at is going to turn to their friends and be like, I'd like to lay on the ground, but I can't because I've been assigned to this cannon by a dedicated action. Those are like the last words spoken by some Spanish corsaro.
So yeah, and then a note for the stand up. Standing up counts as a move action, and you cannot fire artillery in the same activation that you stood up. So keep that in mind as well.
That's a deal. So let me ask this question before you look at the common player mistakes. Let me ask the question of Joe first. Since you wrote the rules and you played a lot of games and you've taught a lot of new players, what would you say is the most common mistake that a new player makes with artillery?
I didn't write the rules. I helped develop and test the new math on the cannons, but I didn't write the rules. The initial rules, I helped tweak the new rules. That's it.
He just complained about them the whole time.
Yeah, I'm good at complaining.
So in your career as an effective complainer and mathematician, what is the most common mistake you notice a new player making when they're playing with artillery?
Just learning to use them efficiently and man them efficiently. So I see a lot of people do the mistake that you may have mentioned where you put one unit on one side or one unit on the other, and then you spend the entire game with one side of your ship you doing something, another not. So you wasted a whole unit. So just do one big blob of cannon crew for all the cannons, and then just man it. Cannons get 4 reloads, so it's difficult. It's a lot of work to get them to fire again. And learning how to get those off as quickly as possible makes the difference between winning and losing. So making sure you have expert artillery crew if you can, at least on one unit, getting a master gunner in there who might be more than 4 points soon because he's so good, and using command points to reload again, and pushing to reload again, even taking the fatigue if that's what it takes. And then not letting them ever go prone. If your unit is almost ready to fire, somebody hits you with their stupid swivel barrage of too many dice, and you fail your fatigue test, and you shouldn't. You're going to go prone, and then you have to rally, and you have to stand up and spend 2 more turns trying to get back. You might want to spend your fortune re-rolling that fatigue test, because if you go prone, you're sunk.
He's still complaining, you see.
I was going to say, this is drifting into complaining.
He sounds like he's talking sense to me.
Is that or it's PTSD? I can't decide.
I'm not saying he's wrong, but he is complaining.
No, these
What
are
is-
just things you got to watch out for, because if you let
Joe.
your cannon crew go prone, you're going to be screwed. So you need to take that decision seriously.
Joe, what has Guy done to you over there?
Oh, so much.
Guy is an assassin.
So we actually get this. We get some questions about artillery a lot through support and such. Though I think actually the most common misunderstanding that people often have is how to actually build their force with a ship and artillery and crew. A lot of people assume the ships are fully gunned, which is they are not. You buy a ship and it has no guns. You have to buy the guns that you had the ships, which you have to buy in pairs. You have to buy those in pairs, and there's a separate cost for that in the table that you'll see. And that is usually the one thing that I've seen the most confusion on is that just how to get artillery on your ship and how much you can take and what the size limitations are. There seems to be not a whole lot of clarity on that with newer players specifically. So, which is why we made some of the ships in the starter set and things like the Bark that are more likely to be somebody's first ship kind of just limited to light guns, and we say it right on the card, so there's no confusion. And plus, realistically, those ships wouldn't carry big guns anyway. So that's one thing I've seen. So guns, you buy them in pairs. Your ship comes with no guns at all. You have to buy them and add them.
I'd also like to, as far as force building goes, a common mistake I see with new players, especially when we're getting a lot of tournament lists handed in, or somebody asks, on the side if there's a recommendation. I often see a new player take some big, expensive unit that has artillery crew and use them to man artillery. I don't remember if,
probably either freebooters or filibustier.
Or Enterplogue, that kind of thing, and they're like, "All right, I'm putting these guys on my cannons," and I'm just like, "No, don't, please don't, no."
Well, depending on your build, you could pull it off an Enterplug, but the others not so much. That's more there just for opportunity's sake.
I usually put them on swivels only because they're probably right. Like after they get where they're going, or they upgrade. They pick a unit that has muskets and they put them on cannons, which actually brings up a thing that we didn't cover. I'd like to go over, which is how are muskets used while assigned to cannons?
Yeah, can you half shoot while you're assigned to artillery? Ha 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 ha.
Short answer, no. Yes, you can, but
You can, but you probably won't.
You have to have double your crew requirement to reload to half fire with your unit,
Right.
correct?
Right.
So if you had a battery of 2 light guns, you would need 8 men in the units in the unit to take a half shot with that unit, which would be shooting with 4 muskets.
Right.
and if you man both sides of a ship, it's pretty much hopeless, because then you have to have double what you need for twice the guns you're actually shooting. Or you could take an action to abandon one side of the ship.
That's true. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, if you're manning all 4, then yeah, it would be a massive unit.
But even so, something that I commonly run, which is a medium gun sloop, and I've seen a bunch of these around as well, you're talking about a base need of 18 guys. You need 36 on that front deck, and I think the whole sloop holds like 38.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So
it's only
yeah,
useful
don't-
like on the longboat with one swivel, or the piragua with that little tiny.
Which is
cannon
the
on
reason.
front or something.
Which is the reason. Which is the reason the rule exists. It's just for the
Yeah.
record. We didn't want to exclude those things. So, yeah, because typically nobody's gonna fire their cannon and pick up their musket and take a shot. Like that. That's not something people did. But there are situations where you have a big giant group of guys assigned to like one gun sometimes. So the option is there.
Oh, notably, when I was talking about putting enter plogue on cannons, you do have to abandon them before you charge. So if you're taking a crew or a unit that has artillery, and you're manning swivels or something like that, you do have to abandon them before you charge over to the enemy ship.
Right. Which abandon is a standard action. So
You do not have to. You do not have to abandon them first. You can abandon them by moving away from them.
Really?
You can't take the charge action.
But the charge action isn't allowed while assigned.
Yeah. So you're right. So you'd have to move. It'd have to be a regular. So you could move and then charge. Or
can you
unassigned,
move
yeah.
while assigned?
Yes, that you can.
Also, don't you have to move like 12 inches away?
You can move, but then if you move away, then you're no longer assigned, and you have to be. You can't fire your guns, obviously, if you moved away from them.
So you could just move from one deck to the other deck of your ship and then charge.
I thought there was a minimum distance like 12 inches to like
That's on
automatically.
land.
Yeah.
Well,
Structure section
If
might
you-
complicate it.
If you move into a different section, you abandon them. Yeah, I think so. Anyway,
okay.
could be wrong on that one.
Good to know.
Nah.
Ask Joe. Joe would know.
I always abandon and then charge.
Mike, it sounds like they finally found you.
Yeah. Sorry.
I
You might-
can
you
hear
might
the
wanna
police
cheese
in the
it.
background.
Yeah,
you
it's,
might want to make a
it's-
run with it.
It's been an active night for crime in my neighborhood. So,
Mike,
apparently.
you're allowed to take a free abandon action, and then you'll be allowed to take saves and fight actions once you become engaged in melee combat.
If somebody charges you on artillery.
Correct.
Mhm.
Yes.
So I think that's all I've got. If anybody else wants to add anything,
No, we'll just need these
That's-
guys back to explain manning like the assignments to sales and spars or whatever that's called, because I don't understand it.
I've got a whole outline lined up for that one. I've got like 5 of these going in my backlog, so we've got content for a while.
I'm going to try it a few times on my own to screw it up so badly that I have more questions than I already have, and then we'll bother them to come back.
I think one of my main
That's-
questions with that one is going to be, can you shoot?
From the sales?
I think it's the same situation
Mhm.
because that rule is just for assignments, not specifically artillery.
Correct.
Oh,
So
okay.
we should save this for the other episode, but while you're here,
Mhm.
it's you need twice the number of people to man the sails as the size of your ship. So a sloop with 2 requires 4 people, but like a galleon would take 8, and then you'd need double that to fire.
Right.
Okay, so slightly easier than guns for anybody curious.
Slightly.
Yet another reason. The rules there. Yes, but yeah. Mhm. Especially something like a longboat, for example. If you put up a sail on your longboat, it would be obnoxious that you couldn't fire at all when it just takes a couple guys to actually sail it. So the rest of the guys can half fire, while everyone else helps sailing the ship.
Oh, well, there you go.
Neat.
Which brings us, I believe, to announcements. So, Glenn, if you want to tell everybody about Cold Barrage first, let us know what the plan is, what's going on.
Cold Barrage. I don't think they're taking submissions until the new year, but I'm planning to run a large game there. I'm still deciding between actually trying to get a scenario finished and ready to go, versus just having a big sea battle. Those are always fun and draw a crowd because of the giant ships. So I will figure that out, and we will see. That will probably be affected by how much sleep I get with the baby and how much time I can actually dedicate to working on the scenario. So that's March 2nd, I think.
That's correct.
I mean, that's what we have listed here, but they also misannounced the date the first time, so I need to double check that I have the right one.
We'll come out. We'll come out a few times between now and then, so we can update it if we need to.
I'll try to post reminders this time around, but we should be in the Pell or whatever they call it for that one. And yeah, so show up at Cold Wars and Havre de Grace, and we'll run a big ship battle with 6 to 8 ships, I think, depending on number of participants.
Mike, are you guys going to be at Adepticon?
We will. We will be at Adepticon. All Joe and Jason and Garrett and everyone else, all the crew there has got all their events submitted. No, are you going to Adepticon, Garrett?
Yes. Yeah. I'm going.
Cool.
Me and Garrett are going to meet in person for the first time at Adepticon.
Oh yeah, you're going too.
We've actually
You're
never
going
met.
too. That's right, Tom. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay, cool. Yeah, it's gonna be fun. So that'll be the next. That's our next con for sure. We might do Skirmish Con in Jacksonville this year, but with all the projects we have, I know we're gonna go to Skirmish Con. I just don't know if we're gonna bend. So I don't know.
When is that?
It might be. I don't think they have a date yet. They haven't contacted me if they do. They usually do when they have their date, but I think it was the first week of March last year, so it should be right around the same time this year. It just depends on the availability of the hotel and whatnot. But it's early. It's early in the year, early-ish in the year.
March 1st to 3rd. I just looked it up for you.
So I was more or less right.
Same weekend.
So that's that's where we'll be next. I usually take the this time of year off from traveling, especially because it's just within Florida it's not so bad, but in the rest of the country it is does get a little.
It's a
the
lot.
weather does get to a place where I don't enjoy it.
Yeah.
I don't like snow. I don't want to drive in snow. If I can avoid that, I'm good. Adepticon pushes the envelope. It snows sometimes, but Adepticon's worth it. So.
And earlier, Joe had mentioned that he already has a page up on Blood and Pigment that is listing all the events for Adepticon. So I will make a point of posting that in the episode description when we put it on No Dice, No Glory.
Yeah, and for the record, for anybody who attended last year, we're trying really hard to be in the main room this time, so it could be near a booth and stuff, so we could hopefully be a little more active with the events. But I have not heard yet, so we don't know. Hopefully we get that. If not, we'll be in the other hotel in the Hyatt. So be sure to check, because I know there was some confusion about that last year for people who attended. People were walking up to the booth trying to figure out where our events were, not realizing there was a different hotel where the events were. So hopefully they get us in the main hall. I jumped through all the hoops they asked me to jump through to make it happen. So let's hope for the best. But if not, then it's okay. It'll still be a good time.
I want to reinforce all the times and places on Blood and Pigment are not 100% confirmed yet because we haven't heard back. We submitted everything. I assumed it's going to be, I have it listed as the alternate address, the other hotel right now, but if things change and we get into that sweet spot, I'll reflect that in event pages here.
Yeah,
Cool.
That would be great. But if not, still good. It was a great time last year. It just stinks for me personally, because then I have to, I'm busy at the booth, so it's hard to get over there. So
I was there for 4 days and hardly saw you.
I know, yeah. So, but either way, it'll still be a good time. Every time I came by, the events looked amazing, and there was a bunch of people playing, and it was a lot of fun. So,
yeah, we had double the people register. We had a wait list longer than the player lists for almost all the events last year. So we're trying to make a few more events and open up to more people. So should be the place to be for Blood and Plunder all year. And get more help. Yeah. The whole Blood and Pigment crew is gonna be awesome. Jason and Guy and Dan and me and Garrett's gonna be helping, and it's gonna be fun.
Wow. Meanwhile, we can't even get the Tales of the Sail guys to all meet.
No.
I don't know what to tell you. I don't know.
I'm gonna be there.
I'll be there,
Ooh.
Glenn.
Ooh.
I'll be there. Shots
All I
fired.
can say is fresh baby. That's it.
Bring the baby with you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Get him started early.
Bring him along.
Yeah.
they're not gonna be old enough to crawl anywhere.
Yeah, you can't get away.
True.
Just bring
Yeah.
one of those baby cages,
It'll
to make for dogs.
Screaming potato face. Yeah.
We'll bring a little paper pirate hat. They'll be the cutest thing ever.
Yeah, it'll be cute.
We have the pirate baby outfit. Oh, we got Samuel in it back during the Kickstarter.
There you go. Bring the whole family. You guys could all just hang out there. It'd be a good time. There's tons of stuff for kids to do in Schaumburg, I'm pretty sure.
I did see a lot of big parking lots that you could play in the snow. It'd be fine.
Yes, that's true.
Very nice.
My wife will be thrilled for a 12-hour road trip with all the kids in the minivan.
I actually have relatives in Chicago. I'm excited to see them. It'll be nice.
I saw a beaver in the hotel pond last year. That was pretty exciting. The kids are going to kick out of that.
Watch that for just days.
Oh man,
Beavers are not a common sight in Florida, so it was exciting for me. So
The beavers, I don't know. I've met a lot of people that hate beavers enough to hunt them, so I don't.
Beavers in my
bother.
woods.
Yeah, of
And
course you do.
bobcats.
You're up
do you
there.
trap them for their pelts?
Yeah. In his spare time, Joe is a fur trapper. He's not just a musician, a teacher, a businessman, a writer. He's like, when I really need to relax and cut loose, I go trap beaver up on the river.
the organ he has in the woods is adorned in beaver pelts.
Good old Trapper Joe.
I got a cougar on my trail cam last month. That was exciting.
Ooh, neat.
That's a different joke.
Well, it is a school night for me. I know that they'll all make fun of me as soon as this recording stops, but I want to say a big thank you to Mike Tunez for joining us, and a big thank you to Joe Forrester for making the time. Thank you guys so much for coming on.
It was fun. Thanks, guys.
And someday I'll get my name pronounced correctly, but that's okay.
I said, no.
It's Joe Forster, right?
Forster.
Yeah. And it's not Joe either, but that's okay.
Joseph.
You told me one time that you don't really like people calling you Joe, and I've tried to make a point of calling you Joseph since then.
You've literally never told me that.
I promise.
Never
I tell
told
my
me that.
students I want to call them by their actual name. I was deceived though, because your avatar says "Be Gamer Joe."
No, that's true. That's fair.
Ah,
I was deceived,
There you go.
but I should have
There
known
you go.
better, because it does say in parentheses Joseph, so I should just say Joseph. But I'm gonna get there, Joseph. I promise. I'm gonna work at it.
I won't. I'll get worse. I'm gonna start. I'm gonna find a way to shorten it even more.
This man does all this work for you. You can't even pronounce.
I'm just gonna start calling you Jay.
Hey, man.
Jose.
All right, Garrett, you want to take us out?
Yeah, everybody, just remember to keep your powder dry, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks so much for joining the show tonight. Remember to follow us on Twitter at No Dice, No Glory, and keep the conversation going on NoDiceNoGlory.com, now featuring our own message boards. Have a great night, everybody.